Hello, it's October 21st, 2021, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Development Call. We get together every week to talk about priorities for Backdrop core development. We'll start off with some introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, calling in from Oakland, California. Let's go to Joseph.
Hi, my name's Joseph. I'm a backend developer from Las Vegas, Nevada. And Luke.
I'm Luke McCormick. I'm actually now a technical account manager from San Ramon, California. Going to be doing a lot more programming with my new gig, so I may show up more, although timing gets me tricky. Let me go over. Tim looks busy, so let's say Panda. Peter. Maybe not. Maybe Tim.
Sure. Peter, if you're available later, let us know. This is Tim. I'm St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, and very focused on Backdrop Live right now. Joseph already went, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just Jen.
Just Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I can do the community update section if you can give me a link to the agenda.
Okay. All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. So this week we're going to be continuing doing kind of like a priority planning for the next release of Backdrop 1.21. We started this kind of planning session 2 weeks ago, taking the results of a survey that was done a couple, like 18 months ago, I think, and going through that list of survey results and sizing them, talking about the status and where they currently are. And then today we're probably going to go through that same list a second time and start sizing them for impact. So kind of impact in a way kind of equates to priority, like how big of a splash it would make, but not necessarily, because a lot of times we'll choose things that are easy or fit people's needs, over the impact that it has on the entire project. Let's see, Jen, do you want to do the community update before we dive in? If you're ready.
I'm not ready.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's maybe skip over that. We can just dive right into the road mapping. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Okay. So here's the list of features. These again are pulled from survey.backdropcms.org. The quick list here. So we've got add field group, multiple file and image uploads, reference module, recipes, icon fonts or icons in general, automatic updates, exposing fields to, this is layout visibility conditions, better bulk operations for updating entity values, a couple of items that are done here. I'll just skip over those. Upgrade UI, views bulk operations, select all items on all pages, moving the title display settings form, advanced caching, removing the tabs from the login, register, and password reset pages, better Google page speed out of the box, save draft module and core, add a site architecture report, and accordion blocks. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I said that we were going to start sizing this, but I forgot to mention something else, and that's before we get into that, we'd like to also kind of amend this list with just items that have momentum right now, because those are things that are likely to continue and get pushed into 1.21 as well. So we don't have an official list of these things. I think that we were hoping to solicit the knowledge of the people present to see what issues they've seen that has momentum that we would likely be continuing work on in the near future. I think, well, Joseph mentioned right off the bat there was PHP 8 upgrade or compatibility. And this isn't necessarily something that's a 1.21 issue. It's something that's happening continuously, but that's definitely moving forward really pretty quickly. Tim or Jen or Peter or Joseph, do you guys have other items that you had in mind?
Well, the one that I mentioned before, there's actually a couple of different issues that are very similar. One of them is 4903, provide a new hidden path content type in core. I'm going to try to find the related issues. Well, this might be the one that's getting all the focus. Is that I think that one. So.
And so this is so we already have something akin to rabbit hole in core, and this is the idea is that we would include content type out of the box that utilized it, right?
Yes, but more than that, that we would, if you look at the issue, there's some screenshots, and it would not just include that in core, but also sort of showcase it on the front page. Which is the scope of this issue is a little broader than implied by the title. And actually, I'm trying to think. It might be that we have a separate. No, I think it's all in this one issue.
Oh, there's 73 hidden items here. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, about on September 8th.
Here we go.
Is a screenshot. Although if that's the only screenshot, then there must be another issue because.
Interesting. So it looks kind of like a, yeah, I can see a card being possibly one of the candidates for the name of the thing that we would add. Yeah.
One of the big, like this becomes a really complicated issue only because it involves things like naming a new content type. Technically, this is a pretty simple issue to resolve. Any complexity is coming from just all of the decisions that have to be made around it. Although we've made a lot of progress, and we actually did like one entire UX meeting about a month ago where we just talked about this one issue. So, for example, there's been some back and forth about whether or not to actually display this. I think one of the technical issues, which I'm not sure if I understand why it is a technical, Jen has raised the issue about how do we, if we have actual images, like how do we include those in core, which it's not clear to me why that would be difficult, but maybe I'm not understanding the issue.
Just because we don't have any files in the files directory. So like an image that's content that someone could like upload gets complicated. So if we wanted to do it in the theme, like the way we did the basis, the welcome area, the hero block, that doesn't actually have an image on it. It's just added as CSS in the background. We could do that and give somebody an option to override it. But just we need to make a decision about how we want to do that and if we want to like always do that going forward, or if we want to try and add a file during installation, and then where do we get that file from? Does it live in a module somewhere? So just some, again, not technically hard, but decisions that need to be made.
It seems like I would just putting an idea out there. It seems like it would be part of the standard profile, don't you think? Because it's what creates the default content already. So it would create a couple of cards. So it would hold the default images, but then when it created the content, it would be saving them into the associated nodes.
Yeah, that's, I think, what I was thinking. Now, go ahead, Joseph.
No, that was what I was going to say too.
Oh, okay.
So far, there is a PR for this, and the PR is purely all install profile, right? It's just using the install profile to create a new content type and create some content.
Okay. Very cool. Let's see, we can go ahead and size this too. So what have we got here? This is votes. We don't have votes on this one. But size. and then
Again,
impact.
technically, it's kind of small,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of decisions that make it a little bit bigger. Although we've done a lot of the decisions, I mean, I think we're getting fairly close to a consensus. Um, there seems to be pretty good support for the idea of doing this. If anything, like just the final naming, I don't know if we've settled on that, and that could turn out to be hard.
Well, I'll probably leave this as a small. I think.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it might might be a medium, but yeah. So impact. Let's see. Status. Okay. So naming decisions and small technical details.
I would say that the two things that we're struggling with a bit are one, naming decisions, and two, just how to display. You know, what you saw was one proposal for sort of how to show this on the front page, and then as soon as we start doing things to the front page, then other issues sort of pop up. Although
Yeah.
I think we're trying to limit it to this, you know, to just adding this one like region and
Yeah, big issue here too. I imagine this has been discussed in the extensive comments here. Is that as soon as we add another, especially a content type like this, that where there's like some styling applied here, you know, we also need to theme it essentially. So that, you know, that also gets into the design aspect a little bit.
yes, yeah.
Although this fortunately or thankfully looks like it's pretty modest in its approach.
Well, yeah, and I think, and I don't know, I don't remember if this is an issue or if it's going to cause problems, but I want to say that, like, you know, what this is largely like, I don't think we added any, I don't know if we had to add any CSS, but we did add like a view with some classes in the view to sort of get it to display this way.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think the pull request has images yet. I think that the existing pull request is text only, and that Olaf made that pull request or that mock-up without a pull request.
Okay, I'm just getting some links in here.
Sure.
This is issue 50.
Can anybody think of any other issues like this one that have a lot of momentum?
Last week, Greg said that he was really interested in working on the
Oh, that's right.
the field, creating new fields UI.
Yeah, I
Well,
actually had the link open to that one a second ago.
Well, he actually listed himself as advocate for one. Is that the one, or is there, you know, because Greg can be really interested in a number of issues at once. But we should think about the one that he actually put his name on as an advocate.
I think it might be this one.
Yeah, this was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, this is reworking the add field process substantially. And apparently there's a contributed module in the world of Drupal called Dream Fields that implements a new way of adding fields.
Yeah, but does this have his name listed as advocate in the initial?
It does not.
Then I think there might be a different one that he's also. I'll see if I can figure it out. If he listed himself as advocate, it's probably on the milestone. So let's look to check the milestone.
Nope, it's not there yet. So far, we've only got telemetry.
I think that is the one that he was talking about last week.
Okay, I thought that he had actually added himself as advocate. So.
Yeah, definitely an interesting option here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've there's a much bigger issue here. This meta field UI redesign. It seems like this is a more explicit direction where he's saying here's one option that is in front of us that we could potentially adopt. It's not necessarily like this issue isn't so much like let's discuss options so much as it is let's discuss this option.
Yeah,
No,
I think that
yeah, but I just found on October 12th, he said he's added himself as advocate for issue 1040, add inline form errors.
Oh, okay. It's a different one. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is such a more complicated issue than it may appear.
But he does actually have his name listed there as advocate on this one. So
Interesting. He pulled this in 9 days ago. Okay, well, we can add it to the milestone. We'll see how this shapes up.
So you're saying this isn't a small issue?
Well, so this issue, like, or this feature exists within Drupal 8, and it honestly has never really worked right. And I think that by itself, like, presents exactly how difficult it is. That it's a lot more challenging than it seems. So on a lot of sites, it's on by default, I think, even in new Drupal sites, but on a lot of sites I ended up turning it off because it very frequently like suppresses, like the error message doesn't show, and so what ends up happening is that the page reloads, but the field that contains the error is somehow hidden or not shown, and so the page reloads and there's just nothing. It's just like the save just doesn't work, and it's really hard to tell exactly what failed. Sometimes it has a little message up at the top that says like, check the fields below for errors and correct them, and then it's like, but it doesn't tell you which fields. So it's just like you're just completely helpless, like trying to find which field failed the validation. You have to click through the whole node form trying to find it.
it's the one that has a slightly different border.
well, Greg's final comment was this is a small code change for a big UX gain. So I think he does. Does he have a PR? No, I don't see a PR. Okay.
Well, interesting. Sorry, I have to keep muting. I have allergies that are bothering me. So, all right, let's see. So, yeah, I would call this a large, but sounds like the impact that, or the approach that Gregory's taking makes him think that it's easier than that. So maybe we'll compromise and put it at a medium.
Yeah, he can modify that if he gets into it and finds out. Somebody updated rework the color module today.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Okay. Should that be on this list?
I was just reading the issue, and it's got like a big list of checkboxes, and I noticed that some of them were things I've fixed that weren't checked off, so I just marked them.
Okay.
I don't really know how much time I'm going to be able to put into that. Probably the thing I'm going to be spending most of my time, if I have time for working on core, it's going to be working on the reference module.
Okay. Don't want to distract from that.
Yeah, let's do impacts on these couple of items before we go back up to the top, just while we're here. So hidden content type in core. What do we think? We haven't defined our impact levels yet. Maybe that's what needs to happen first.
Right.
So let's see. I would probably say, okay, so I'm just going to start throwing out ideas here. So effects, out-of-box experience as like a medium item. Low would be like
Luke, I hope you're paying attention because this seems like something you would have opinions about.
I am.
I was thinking about like marketing promotional value partially when I suggested this impact. Like, what kind of PR value can we get from promoting a new feature? Which I don't know if that's smart or not. I think Luke would say it is.
Yeah, I was just wondering if what the best metaphor would be, and like I got nothing. So I'm okay. So let me try to add value right now. Just thinking through this.
You know, for me, high impact might be something that would get a lot of attention, like if we tweeted about it, which might be completely contrary to somebody else's definition of high impact. Something could have high PR value and really low user impact, right? Like
okay.
That's possible. Hopefully, it's not the case. But I think these are both legitimate ways of thinking about impact. You know, we've caching or cache tags. I think we've often discussed is like having a bigger PR value than maybe actual value, just because a lot of people ask for it and compare us to Drupal 8. Yet, as Joseph's pointed out, you know, it might not actually affect users all that
much. Interesting.
The actual impact of the change depends heavily on what you're doing with your site.
Sure.
I would like to again advocate for cache and validation being important to everyone, all sites, regardless of size.
All right, let me throw out sort of what I had in mind with this, and it has less to do with sort of the nature and the type of the impact itself, but more the audience. So kind of let me throw out like sort of 3 possible levels that I would think. Whereas like the smallest one would be people who are experiencing this issue directly themselves would understand and appreciate this change. The medium size would be people who are familiar with Backdrop in general, but maybe not that particular issue, but just if they're in the Backdrop world and understand that, they would appreciate why this is a good thing. And the largest impact is people who don't know Backdrop would still appreciate that this is a good thing. So
I see what you're saying. Okay, actually, yeah. So low is actually
it's kind of like who cares about this?
Right.
You know, how big is the audience of who is keeping an eye on this and would notice it?
I think that's pretty useful, Luke, and it's the direction I was going. And an example of this would be the pageless node or the pathless nodes, not the pathless nodes themselves, but are displaying them on the front page. To me, would have a large impact because it refreshes the look of Backdrop on the front end and makes it look much more like a website. And so to me, it would be like high impact because you wouldn't need to know anything about Backdrop to appreciate the fact that Backdrop looks a lot better.
Yeah,
with this feature.
So something that improves the first user experience would be like large impact.
Got it. So noticeable or marketable to new users, or not even new users, but
non-users.
Non-users, yeah.
Somebody who's
surely we can come up with a better word than that.
Right.
Potential
users. Yes, I like that. Potential users. And I want to stress as somebody who's a fan of this that I don't think that we want to like put too much priority on this, right? We need to balance both. I want some high impact, but also some, you know, some of the low impact are also very important.
Great. Okay. Well, I like this. I'll get rid of this optional. Well, I guess optional modules kind of actually applies, but yeah. So this looks pretty good. So low optional modules, beneficial mostly to power users. Medium effects out of box experience, beneficial to most or all backdrop users. And high is major new features, modules, tweetable, noticeable, or marketable to potential users.
Yeah, I think we want to use the word impact as a placeholder. Like, I don't want to replace with anything because I don't want to replace it with something else that's also not describing it. But if there's a word that describes sort of marketability and visibility and PR value, maybe impact. I don't know. Maybe that describes it better than I think.
Okay. Are we good enough to roll with this, do you think?
I am, yep.
Okay. All right. So let's take these impact ratings and we'll go back down to our list of things that we just added. So PHP 8 compatibility, I would think that would be, yeah, that would affect pretty much all backdrop users at some point, all or most of them.
Actually, before I want to maybe guide the description of low. It's not so much power users; it's more users that specifically are using that particular. It's like the localization, like people who are using that particular thing. I
Like
don't think it's necessary to
niche
rank.
or they're not really. I mean, it's like kind of hard. Like translation isn't exactly niche, but
Yeah.
or certain
I want to search for words that don't have judgment
Yeah.
pieces attached to them, like
Power user, how about specific use cases?
Existing users of a feature versus existing users of backdrop versus everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, add a hidden content type in core. Yeah, what do you guys think on this one? Oh, Tim, you're saying something?
I'm going to make an argument for large because of the way we're implementing it. Because it's coming with a redesign of the front page, which I think just makes backdrop to everybody look much more appealing. And that's why the content type itself I would call a medium impact, but putting it on the front page to me gives it a large impact. That's just me.
I would have said medium, but sure. Okay. I'm not sure field UI actually got in this list. I think we were thinking about it because Gregory had mentioned that recently, but I'm not sure that this actually is in the list. I'm debating whether or not I should delete this line or not. I'm going to delete it.
Sure.
Okay. Inline form errors. So size, medium, impact. Probably medium, right? Don't you think? So it affects all users because all users fill out forms, right? But I'm not.
I buy that.
Yeah, it shouldn't really be importance so much. Like you can, it's more just who you're explaining it to. That actually sounds like a broad audience. I mean, people, is it like how common is the problem? Is it something that happens like a lot, or is it sort of an edge case rare thing?
The people who are affected by this are the end users who will use the site after you build it, and then your customer support people. So I would say that's a very, very large group.
It sounds like a broad audience to me. I mean, they shouldn't be seen as like importance, right? Like it's more just
right.
Who doesn't care about it, and there's very few people that wouldn't care, but like everybody kind of cares about this.
Right.
Okay. So it sounds like we're definitely at medium, but I'm not really sure about like, that this would matter to people outside of backdrop. Okay. Okay, good. So we're pretty solid there. Okay, let's start back up from the top. Add field group functionality to core, our most popular item from the survey. Impact rating here. Looks like a medium to me. What do you guys think?
I agree.
Multiple file/image uploads. This isn't exactly like a earth-shattering thing at this point. This is like catching up, honestly. So I don't think this is really like something that would be like a key feature. It wouldn't be large, but it does affect like absolutely everybody, I would think. So I
I
would say
mean,
medium.
it is large unless we want to bury it. Do we want to hide the fact that we didn't do that in the past, or because it definitely improves things for everybody?
Yeah, it improves things to everybody, but exactly how marketable is like being able to upload multiple files at once, It's like that's not
Yeah,
impressive at this point in time.
I think medium is probably right.
All right, I think it's large, but I
Oh,
won't make a big deal of that.
is it going to sell somebody on backdrop that like help? I don't see that, right? Like I'm comparing backdrop to WordPress. Oh, backdrop has this. I don't know.
Yeah. Reference module to core. I think this one is a high impact. And I know it might not be like just said multiple uploads isn't impressive, but references in the general scheme of CMSs is a really
Right.
substantial feature because WordPress doesn't have anything like references. A lot of other CMSs don't either. It's kind of like this. It's very specific to the way that we've been
Sold,
working.
large.
Okay, everybody thinks that it's high impact.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, recipe project type. This one
I
could be high impact if we promote it more on backdropcms.org.
I totally vote this big.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. I could go with medium or high on it, but I certainly I like it, so I like the high rating.
okay. Add an icon font to core, or just icons in general, because this is kind of taken a new turn. Sorry, and we already have icons in core. This is actually more about vector icons in core, whether it's an icon font or SVG driven fonts.
Well, the answer to that question is really different though, because icon font in core will benefit anyone building a site with backdrop, but changing our own icons will affect no one.
Right. And I would even say that even if it were available to all contrib modules, I guess it might affect end users eventually if modules start using them more regularly. But I don't know. I'm seeing this as like useful to developers and power users because it's like the big difference between the convenience of having an icon that's already there versus going out, getting font awesome, and then converting the icon to a PNG or an SVG. Like that's like a convenience.
Well, but if it was an icon font, it would also benefit anyone who created a piece of content on the site because they could just copy paste and have an icon. So there's I think that there's two different, like this particular issue that should maybe be rephrased so that we can adequately size it, because it's currently solving two problems, and the current solution mentioned there is not solving two problems. It's only one, and it would be small. So
So
Wait. I'm not sure if I understand. I'm feeling inflationary here because this one seems big to me too. What does this like Nate? Just the way you described it, what I heard was, well, all that this does is makes this really difficult thing we're doing here really easy, and that sounds really good to me. Does it not make it
yeah, so
simpler and
there's
easier
there's two different approaches to this. One of them is we're going to provide a library of infinite icon options for anyone to use, and the other one is we're just going to replace the 16 icons we're using in core. And replacing the 16 we're using in core doesn't really benefit anyone other than the core development team, or maybe Contrib if they happen to use the same icon, which would probably be a bad idea anyway. But if we provided a utility for anyone to easily add an like individual one of hundreds of icons, then it's big. But I think that that particular issue, it says add an icon font to core, which describes the big solution, but the technical implementation that we're working on that issue just replaces core's icons, which is small. So I think we need to rephrase the issue title, at least in this spreadsheet, if not in the issue itself, to indicate that this is not the feature that everyone wants, that it's the thing that'll only help core developers.
Got it. Thank you. So small, skipping over medium in this case.
Yeah.
That's a very specific task.
Well, I think, yeah, I'd say that in that case that the title is misleading.
Yeah.
So it
And
depends
I think
on
that,
which direction we go on this one, really.
and I think so. I think that if all we're doing for the second one, if all we're doing is just putting the library in core, that would also be small. I think if we just put a JavaScript file or a folder full of SVGs in there and don't really do anything else with them, that's still not accessible to non-technical users. And so I would say a large would be actually exposing that in an API or a user interface to allow people to actually put icons on their site.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really just adding an icon font to core. It's adding this specific, very small icon font to core, right?
Well, we haven't, I mean, that's debatable too. So, and this is also talking about a font, which would be really different from the current technical solution, which is like creating a web widget or it's called, there's something else that's like, yeah. So it's, I think that the issue here that everybody voted on is not the thing that people are technically working on.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of this survey, is that it's from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Comparatively, and things have moved on a bit at some of these. Well, let's keep chugging along here. That one's definitely needs more clarification. Automatic updates.
Giant.
Yeah, this is large for sure as far as like marketing impact.
Everybody on planet Earth.
Yeah, everybody that uses Backdrop and everybody that's considering a CMS, I think, because this lowers maintenance cost potentially, depending on your setup. Okay. Exposed fields to layout visibility conditions. Seems.
It's probably a medium, maybe.
Yeah, maybe even. I mean, it has a lot of usefulness. Probably it adds a lot of flexibility. It's like, but it's also kind of like, who's going to find these options? I would maybe even push towards small, honestly.
I don't know. I'd go for medium too, because right now nobody's going to find them because they don't exist. They don't even know it's possible. But as soon as you go to add a visibility condition, if there's an option for field value, I mean, it would be.
Yeah, well, this impact here, the fact that Contrib solution exists, might minimize the impact a little bit.
That's also true.
Yeah. No, medium. Anyone who's like actively building Backdrop sites would be like, oh yeah, I'll use that. I mean, no one's not going to use it if it's available, and much more so if it's built in than if you have to find it in Contrib. Like moving that into core is a giant visceral change to the accessibility of that particular feature.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I'll give on that.
Showing or hiding page elements based on field values is something I do all the time in 777.
Yeah.
Although I write custom code to do it.
Views bulk operations allow for updating entity values. Well, this, based on the previous conversation, previous line item, seems like it is also the same thing, don't you think? So,
right. I mean, we might we might be getting into a situation where everything's medium or large. But yeah, I can't argue with that.
Okay.
I would go medium or medium to small with. I mean, that's useful to people who are using views bulk operations, right? Like someone who's not using views bulk operations wouldn't
Well,
care.
views bulk operations is now on like the content listing. So everyone uses it, whether they know they're using it or not. It's there. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm also leaning towards small, even though I feel like views bulk operations is there. I feel like the amount of times I want to change the values of all of my fields on multiple nodes at the same time is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, if we say like power users, like I think a typical user would edit each piece of content.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like a power user would be like, I'm confident enough I want to update, 30 or 100 pieces of content all at once.
Good argument.
I don't want to be judgmental about it. I mean, just if that's what you're doing, if you've been driven to use VBO, you'll find this makes that experience better. So small, which doesn't mean bad or unnecessary. It just it's
exactly
that size of the market.
Yep. Well, this one, I don't know where we're going to land on this one. Upgrade UI, similar to migrate UI in AAA to help with moving sites for 777.
Yeah, I feel like Irina would say this is large.
Oh,
I don't know how many current Drupal 7 site owners would attempt an upgrade this way. And maybe her point is that if we make it easy enough, they will try. Even if you're a developer, if it takes you 5 seconds to throw a database in, you would do it. I don't know.
Yeah, and so Irina, just giving some context here, is one of the is a backdrop user who's currently undertaking an upgrade. She works at Stanford, and yeah, there's some active issues right now where she's struggling to like get past like step 1 kind of like import the database. So yeah, I think she would probably say yes, because then at least she would have a backdrop site that was working, and she would be trying to pull stuff into it rather than just seeing PHP errors. Like that's her initial experience, like trying to get from 777 to backdrop requires you update a lot of text files before you get past that whole slew of like just error screens.
I mean, migration issues in general. I mean, I think that is of giant importance to our community, and that is a big gatekeeper to the rest of the world that's not using backdrop. So I think almost anything that might make migration easier is large market. Now if they don't work, then that's a different issue. But like
right.
Anything that might make it easier is broadly applicable.
Well, I'm thinking the number of people is actually maybe small that would use this, but in agreement with Luke that they are people. It's the public would have big PR value, because to be able to publicize the availability of a tool like this would make backdrop seem more accessible to a lot of people, whether or not they actually used it or not.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. I think this should be a high impact thing.
Okay.
Even if it wasn't, like it's not something people are going to be using all the time, but would be pretty critical to getting new users into backdrop. And if we say affects new users or affects potential users, then that makes a high impact.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, we've got a couple minutes left. Select all items on all pages in VBO. I think this falls into the same category as the previous VBO issue, right?
Yep.
That it's like this is a power user capability.
Well,
it's a VBO user capability.
Yeah. Okay. So are we saying that like I can't on the content management page, I can't select all of the visible nodes at once? See that?
If there's multiple pages, like if there's 3 pages of results,
okay.
being able to select all 150 items instead of just 50 at a time.
Sure. Yeah, that maybe decreases it a bit. If I couldn't do even one page, I would say then it's at least medium.
Oh, I see. This is getting confusing here because I'm saying L and that's the same as, oh boy, I've confused myself. Okay, so I'm gonna actually have to start saying, okay, so I actually looked at this one, I was like, oh, that's funny, I said L, but that should be H, but yeah, okay, so now I've got this namespace conflict. Okay, low.
Right.
Okay,
L meaning both large and low is a recipe for.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm
Automatic updates is right now marked as L, so you might want to fix that.
yeah, so that's exactly what happened. High. Okay. Yeah, boy, I just got this, yeah, I made this really messy. Low. Okay.
Well, none of us caught it, so.
Okay. Okay, move the title display settings to the manage form display, manage display form.
A minor annoyance for existing users, but I think it would be a pretty big benefit for people who are like setting up content types and stuff for the first time. So I don't know.
Yeah, I would be inclined to say that this is low impact. I mean, it is kind of a long-standing inconvenience, but it's also, you know, like because you tend to land on the content type settings form first, and that's where the settings are located already, and then you add fields afterwards. Like workflow wise, it seems like I don't run into this problem very frequently because I'm kind of introduced to where the settings are before I get to adding individual fields.
It feels small to me.
Okay, low impact.
Think about impact. Maybe this will sort of get across. Like if somebody's asking their boss for permission to like move their site to backdrop. High impact is something where the boss might say, "We're not doing it unless it does this," and this wouldn't be that kind of thing. This would be like, boss doesn't care. Whoever's doing it is happy to have their life a little better.
Okay. All right. We're gonna run out of time. Actually, I think we've already kind of run out of time.
How do we do? How many items are left?
We did really well. I mean, we added 3 additional items, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items remaining.
Okay.
So yeah, we did really well going through and sizing on impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably better that we didn't finish that because that's still a little mushy. It's probably good to have that come up next week and mush it again.
Okay. Well, I guess the next step here is we have a. Do we have a session? Actually, I should phrase that
Nope.
first.
Somebody needs to put it on the schedule. Pick a time slot.
We potentially will have a session on this during Backdrop Live, which starts tomorrow and runs through part of Saturday. So I guess the next step here, we've got events.backdropcms.org, Backdrop Live starting tomorrow and the day afterwards. So yeah, this is probably the next place we'll see this. And if we don't discuss it during Backdrop Live, then we'll pick it up again next week during weekly meetings. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for participating in this discussion. It was fun and interesting as always to kind of go through these things and start sliding them out. And the whole point of this exercise, of course, is to give people direction and priorities, to look at this list and say, oh, I want to do something. Of course, everybody would love to have a high impact thing that is easy to do, right? So, but other people could be looking for challenges, or maybe if they're looking at things saying, oh, this thing is important to me, but other people feel it's a small impact or low impact overall, that might divert their attention into something that has a higher impact. So thanks again for participating in this discussion. We will catch up again tomorrow during Backdrop Live or next week.
Sweet.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.